Books, repositories of the great endeavors that have shaped human history, helping us understand peoples and events far removed from our everyday experience. One such great work appeared in 1937, Edgar Snow's Red Star over China, chronicling the travails of the youthful Communist Party of China as it sought to bring a new social and political order into existence on the ancient soil of China. Its evocation of the most traumatic of all the birth pangs of New China, the Long March, quickly captured the Western imagination. Ever since, Snow's work has remained a must-read for all those with an interest in modern Chinese history. Scott is a TV presenter from Britain. Though he's familiar with the great Chinese metropolises like Beijing and Shanghai, the rest of the country has been a closed book to him. Eager to learn about the lives of the greater part of China's population, Edgar Snow's iconic work in his pocket, he's come to southern Jiangxi province. It was from here that the Long March began, saving the CPC from the mortal threat that threatened to strangle New China in its cradle.
Yudu, a small city in southern Jiangxi province, standing on both banks of the Udo River.
In October 1934, the weather was very pleasant. Warm in the day, cool at night, and barely any rain. The Red Army had collected a lot of rice during the summer, and the number of conscripts was far higher than usual. At that time, almost all the military forces of the Chinese Soviet Republic had gathered right here along this riverbank, the Yudu, and ready to make their crossing. Now, this operation had to be kept absolutely secret and was by every single one of the more than 200,000 citizens of Yudu city. This crossing was absolutely essential to the survival of the new state power. The river's got about the same width as the River Thames in London, where I come from. Now, right here is the most important of the 10 ferry ports that they encountered during the year. And it really was the pinnacle moment of the whole Long March.
Back then, there was no bridge across the Yudu River. Fortunately, the Red Army could rely on the support of local fishermen, and a makeshift pontoon bridge of small fishing boats and wooden planks was lashed together, so the 80,000 Red Army soldiers could get across the river. Completing a military operation on such a scale over the course of 5 separate nighttime operations was a truly incredible feat, one that would have been impossible without the support of the local people.
你好，你好，你好，哎，这不老远的来哈，哎，建国路71号，
当年这个门板，当时只有一块了在这里。
啊，对对对，我就是专门过来看看这个吧，就是
那边好几个门都没有门板了，这个就还剩8块门板。
To help the Red Army get across the river, Liu Chongpei's family donated their door panels for the pontoon bridge. This doorway, for example, is missing half its panels.
不是我们这一家，前线好多人都拿着去搭桥了。
啊哈，
对。
In the years of war that followed, maintaining old houses like this was not a major priority, one reason why traces of that historic episode have survived. But what made people want to help the Red Army? Why did the new Soviet Republic inspire such devotion?
I'm in a village just outside of Rijin City, and this was the birthplace of China's first national red political power. It was also the interim central government of the then Chinese Soviet Republic. Now, to a large extent, it could be said that this
was the initial or the embryonic form of today's Chinese political organization.
It was here that in winter 1931, a group of ambitious Chinese communists created their first independent national political system. Its purpose was threefold: to organize armed resistance against foreign aggression, to realize political demands for workers and peasants, and to strive for the fundamental interests of the majority of the Chinese people. It was nothing less than one of the greatest social experiments of the 20th century, one with a legacy that endures today, and which has had a huge impact on the world.
Lots of people are curious to understand how today's China has achieved so much growth and development in just a few decades. Now, on the journey I'm about to embark on, of exploration and investigation, while it's a big question to answer fully, hopefully we can find some key information, get really close, and answer the question, where has today's China come from?
Hey, 你好，你好，你好，
哎，
非常欢迎您，欢迎您来到这里。
谢谢。
你像我们现在看到的国家银行旧址，内设的这个部门是非常健全的。国家银行旧址呢，就相当于现在的中国人民银行。金库旧址，它是隶属于财政部国库管理局。这是中央邮政局旧址，这边是中央印刷厂这个是红军无线电总队旧址，红色中华通讯社旧址，中央出版局、中央印刷局的旧址，相当于现在的国家新闻出版署。
我们现在正在中国就是很发达的行业，我们其实这里都能看到他们就是走的第一步的一个脚印，对不对？
This brings home a very important point. Rather than simply being the military base of the revolutionary movement, the Soviet was home to a fully functioning government, all in an area of just 0.1 square kilometers. Just as Europeans had for centuries explored ideas about a perfect society in books like Plato's The Republic and Thomas More's Utopia, so too were the people of the early Soviet. What's more, they were doing more than simply playing with ideals. They were creating a concrete reality.
这是
妇女生活改善委员会旧址。它是全国妇联的前身。裹桥脚它是中国古代的一大陋习，是对妇女权利的一个漠视。所以那个时候呢，苏维埃中央政府就号召广大劳动妇女要放脚。缠足的话，就等于这个残疾了，是非常痛苦的。
哎呀，天哪！哇，他们吃了多少年的苦，
是
终于真的
就可以解放了。而且当时的苏维埃政府也是鼓励所有的劳动妇女去学习文化。那么从身体上和精神上得到极大解放的劳动妇女呢，她们也会参加体育竞赛，参加社会的各项活动。她们就高唱到这首《妇女解放歌》，我在这呢给你学唱一遍。一早起来，做到日落西，雨打风吹，有谁人知？真正痛苦呀，真正可怜呀，劝我妇女们快快觉悟起。
Within the Chinese Soviet Republic, both men and women began completely new lives. The toiling masses, oppressed and enslaved for so long, began to awaken. People sang new songs, performed new plays, spreading the new culture of modern civilization. In this new society, the inherent dignity of labour was enough to earn a person equality and respect.
In August 1934, the then Kuomintang government launched the biggest encirclement and suppression campaign to date. Now, due to the enormous disparity between the strength of the two sides, the Soviet government was forced to make a decision to abandon its base areas. They then collected along the riverbank of the Udo River and then began a strategic shift. Now at this time, the normal people, the common folk, still threw their entire support behind the Soviet army because they believed that this was the people's army, their army.
"15 years later, this army would triumph and extend the form of government it had pioneered to the whole country, establishing New China, much to the benefit of ordinary people, like the fishermen who helped them cross the Yudu River. Beginning in the 1960s, the government began helping the fishermen settle on land.
I found a member of the fishing community to have a chat with, but now he doesn't drive a boat on the water, he actually drives a bus on the road. Hello.
Li Guofa is an ordinary bus driver in Yudu. He still remembers the days when he lived on a fishing boat as a child.
是不是说很辛苦那个时候？
很辛苦，有风的时候啊，这个船头是真的吓人的，是这个渔民啊，苦在哪里啊？有时那个小孩，一下子不注意就会就是掉到河里面去了，
时时刻刻都
对对是，一下子没注意就搞下去了的啊。当时我父亲是那个时候我3个月都没有父亲了哦，对，我根本说我没有见过我父亲，在河里面那个淹水淹死了。 讲实话的，你在这个船上呢，风吹雨打，哎，渔民真的那个时候怎么过来的？我们自己都不敢想象，是怎么过来的？是。
那你现在的生活，就是比如说从卫生也好，舒适度也好，安全也好，私密感等等等等，全方面绝对有很大的提升，是吧？
是，比以前那个强10倍了，是吧？我这记得我爷爷说，中央有个老干部啊，你一定要记住他。 他是姓康，什么康克清，就说我们送他渡江的，渡江你们帮助了我们感谢你。
Beginning in the 1960s, the local government began putting in place practical initiatives aimed at helping the fishermen. This is a housing development specifically built for them. After decades of construction, Yudu now hosts several such housing developments. Here, fishermen's children can go to school and have more choices in life. After getting off work, Mr. Lee invites me to take a trip in his personal car to go to dinner with some actual fishermen. In Yudu today, a small number of fishermen have chosen to remain living on fishing boats. Each boat is licensed for legitimate fishing. Whether on the river or on the land, each Yudu citizen works hard in pursuit of the life they want. This sense of freedom is why the Yudu people gave their full support to get the Red Army across the river all those years ago.
I'm in the memorial hall for the Great March departure site, right next to the Yudu ferry crossing. And there is a lot of really good information here, but this one, for me, is really worth noting. This is the Yudu County, or the Yudu town's number of conscripts, so the people that actually directly joined the Red Army from Yudu town. So between June and September 1934, just before the Red Army set off on the Long March, the conscripts from Yudu town alone reached 23,369. And that means that when the Red Army set off on the Long March, for every 5 soldiers, 1 of them was right here from Yudu town. Once there was a young tailor from Yudu town, and when he set off on the long march with the Red Army, he took a sewing machine on his back. Now along the way, he'd fix all the uniforms and the clothes, the socks for the soldiers that he could. And he also, using this sewing machine, made and fixed clothes for Chairman Mao himself.
Time to track down the grandson of that Yudu tailor.
哎，请问是葛九成老师吗？
对，你好，你好。
Maybe it's not surprising that he also works in the clothing industry.
请坐一下，坐。
也可以。
是不是因为有他的影响，你现在就做？
因为我当时家里穷，没钱读书，后面我就跟着村里的人去到广东打工。当时我妈就问我：“你年纪这么小，你出去能干嘛呢？”啊，我就说：“我就随口就说出来了，发自内心的。说我爷爷都是做衣服的，我说我去学做衣服。啊，当时我们鱼都是还没有开发，很穷，很多地方都还没用上电，所以说对，我记得我第一年是吧？ 出去打工的时候，93年的时候，那年过年回来的时候，我就穿了一条这个牛仔裤，穿出外面就村里的邻居他就说：“哇，你这个牛仔裤很好看呐、是不是我外面买回来的？”我说：“是啊，这就是我们自己做的。这我穿第一条牛仔裤这里的。”
Nowadays, Yudu's clothing industry is so prosperous that many migrants who left here in pursuit of opportunity elsewhere have returned home. Ge Jiuchang now hopes to realize his own entrepreneurial dreams in his hometown.
现在我就在积累这些经验嘛，就是条件成熟的话，我还是想自己开一家工厂、制衣厂。这现在我爷爷的事业我接着干。
我觉得这个很好，这个就是另外一种方式来尊重自己的历史。
这一位是上这个领子的，你要不要试一下？
我试一下。
对，要。
3、2、1。歪了！哇天哪，哇！
There was a time when tailoring in Yudu was a very traditional occupation, but times change. Nowadays, Yudu's clothing industry is at the cutting edge of a technological revolution. By utilizing smart technology, distant customers can share their personal specifications. This way, Yudu tailors can combine the advantages of mass production with the tailor-made approach. At present, a quarter of Yudu's population work in the clothing industry. For the last 5 years, each year has seen over 10,000 villagers who had left to become migrant workers return here. The county government has invested nearly 3 billion yuan over 3 years in building public facilities, such as training centres, subsidised housing to attract industry talent, and garment testing centres. Thanks to these efforts, as well as the National Poverty Alleviation Programme, Yudu now boasts 2,200 textile and garment enterprises, 5 listed companies, and a total industrial output exceeding 40 billion yuan.
斯维埃共和国江口贸易分局。
The newly established Soviet regime here attached great importance to doing business with all kinds of people. This was the Jiangkou branch of the Foreign Trade Bureau, established in 1933. There were 3 other branches and 10 procurement offices, forming an extensive external trade network. This Jiangkou branch was the first customs office in the Chinese Soviet. Because Jiangxi is surrounded by mountains on 3 sides, for a long time, the trade activities here mainly relied upon limited water transportation. But now, villagers here are using new economic models to open up trade routes to other parts of the country, even to the world.
来，高老师，来尝尝我们家做的这个咸鸭蛋。
谢谢。
哎，哦，来，
就直接吃。
对，就直接这样挖着吃。看这蛋黄。
哦，热乎乎的。
对。
好香。哎呀，好香哦。
香吗？
嗯哼。
糯糯的。
太好吃了。
Grandma Liao's salted duck eggs are justly famous, but in the past, not many people had the chance to eat them.
那会儿就是卖不多，一天可能也就几个、十几个子，是吧？而且，这个能吃到的也就是我们本地的或者我们镇里头的一些人。然后到15年成立的时候呢，我们是卖了10几万个，也就是一天也就几百个子、200-300个子。但到去年，我们的销售量是260万个，
又翻了20倍，厉害！
来，尝尝。
Upon his graduation in Beijing, Zhang Yang, Grandma Liao's grandson, was called back by his grandma to help sell salted duck eggs. Now, he's in charge of the whole production process. With the local farmer's e-commerce service centre as its production base, Grandma Liao's salted duck eggs have become a famous local brand. Whenever Zhang Yang takes an order, a China Post Express truck arrives on time to pick up the eggs and deliver them across the country.
Having made full use of the internet economy, Grandma Liao's salted duck eggs have spurred on and revolutionised almost everyone's lives in the village. In these ponds, they now have well over 30,000 ducks, which they collect the eggs from, sort them and sell them every day. And I tell you now, it's incredible. We can see them all running away and swimming, which is great to see. But now, honestly, I think if I added up all of the ducks I've ever seen in my whole life together, it would only be a tiny fraction of the ducks right here. It's amazing.
The Salted Duck Eggs Cooperative took in almost 100 poor households from the town. 2 years into the project, almost all had left poverty behind thanks to farming ducks.
以前我用1000头的时候，在那个小棚子用了1000头，我卖不出去，那个价钱也不好。后来跟他合作了，我们现在的5万多，但不够。 我们也做大了
，3万只鸭蛋可以下蛋，每天就是早上你们去捡，卖价是多少
？1个多一点
，1块多一点一颗，那就是一天的收入3万以上，3万多。
Remote villages and towns have begun to learn about using emerging economic models to improve their lives. Recent transformations have relied upon a telecommunications network that now covers even the remotest parts of rural China. Nankang has a lot in common with Yudu. Both share a spirit of making the most of what they have. But whereas tailoring is Yudu's traditional money spinner, Nankang's is carpentry. Nankang, however, has chosen to revive its traditions in a very different way from Yudu. Thanks to local government initiatives, Nankang is full of museums, exhibition halls, and furniture design centres.
是政府做这个项目的时候呢，就是想通过小镇吸引包括设计、智能制造、电商等高级人才全部引进这里来。那目前我们已经这个设计板块引进了100多家这个设计公司常驻在这里。因为像我们小镇里面的设计公司跟我们规模以上的企业合作的话，那个我们政府会补助1半的设计费，这个条件也是非常优惠的。 是吧？1半的，对对对，像芬兰啊，然后意大利啊、西班牙，他们过来设计师，他就是用一个字来说，他就是不可想象嘛。
Hi, Laura.
Hi, yes.
Hi, I'm Scott.
Hi, nice to meet you. So we are preparing for design exhibition next year in Milan. It's basically the most famous design exhibition
Very
in the world.
famous,
yes.
yeah.
So I'm very excited. And we start working very hard on the design, and we will start very soon from about product development.
You're Italian studio, Chinese influence, Chinese kind of, feeling to some of it.
Yeah.
What are you expecting people to say?
I think it's gonna be a good surprise for the market.
Amazingly, this furniture town has brought in 6 internationally renowned design agencies and more than 200 first-class domestic ones. In 2019 alone, these high-end teams provided design services for over 2,000 companies, with their design products generating sales of nearly 30 billion yuan. This is a shared material preparation center for intelligent manufacturing, jointly built by a PhD team from the Beijing Institute of Technology. Digital, unmanned and intelligent high-end furniture production has completely revolutionized the furniture industry in Nankang.
In a workshop of this size, all I see are robots working in an orderly fashion.
These AI robots don't just recognize the color and quality of the wood materials, they also know when to send them and to which port. Nankang, formerly home to humble carpenters, is now fast becoming the country's largest furniture manufacturing base and an industrial cluster with a value of no less than 100 billion yuan.
Not far from the furniture town is the Ganzhou International Land Port. Now this is the first and the only direct port for importing timber in the inland area of the country. Now from here, it sends out and it radiates to 18 countries and regions along the Belt and Road Initiative route, creating a very efficient port and of course a logistics channel for what we call buying international timber and selling furniture internationally.
Since March 2021, the China-Europe Railway Express freight train service at the Ganzhou International Port Station switched to a busier schedule, now running once every 2 days instead of 2 or 3 times a week. The X9238 China-Europe train, loaded with 50 standard containers of goods, such as machinery and equipment, fridges and daily necessities, is leaving the station for Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Today, China's development is having a profound impact on the world. In Jiangxi, you can get a glimpse of the place where the CPC's first attempts at practical governance took place. It's amazing to think that this comprehensive, scientifically grounded social experiment is still going on. Staying loyal to its original goal of realizing the fundamental interests of the people, the CPC continues to enjoy the support of the Chinese people, who are hardworking, intelligent, and tenacious. These characteristics, hand in hand with the political grit and determination, explain why China is what it is today.